how does Hollywood keep messing this up?
Yeah.
This is Geek Therapy Radio.
What are we waiting for?
And now your mental curator, Johnny Hamburger.
Hollywood has just released the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie trailer. And this time, I'm kind of taking it personally. I know that sounds really stupid to say, but Sonic the Hedgehog was one of my favorite, if not my favorite, video game character of all time growing up. I used to draw and doodle Sonic the Hedgehog in my notebooks, on scraps of paper. Me and my best friend at the time, John Robertson, would compare our drawings. Like, we would meet up at recess or at lunch and compare our Sonic the Hedgehog drawings. I remember he drew this awesome picture of Knuckles, another character from the Sonic and Hedgehog series, but it was this awesome picture of Knuckles, and he made a paper spring, and he put Knuckles' big old knuckle on this paper spring so it looked like it was punching out at you off the page, because it really was punching out at you off the page. It was the coolest thing I've ever seen. So Sonic the Hedgehog was my favorite video game character growing up. I played all the Sonic the Hedgehog games. I remember when Sonic and Knuckles came out for the Sega Genesis, and it blew our minds. It was this cartridge that you could play by yourself, but also had a slot on top to add other Sonic the Hedgehog games, Sonic 2 and 3. If you put Sonic the Hedgehog 1 on top of the Sonic and Knuckles cartridge, it would give you this screen of you can't do that, or try again, or put into Sonic 2 or 3 or something. It was cool in itself. And I know, side note, I wasn't the only one, if you're of this age, to try to put other Sega games on top of the Sonic and Knuckles cart just to see what would happen. And I think, well, I can't verify this. I think there was one or two games that did some little hidden Easter egg or something like that. But I'm not here to talk about Sonic and Knuckles in this segment, that video game. Just to set the stage that I love Sonic the Hedgehog. Matter of fact, also, this just popped into my brain. I'm reminiscing being 10 years old now. The only comics that I really bought back in the day were Sonic the Hedgehog comics. So I may have bought one or two Spider-Man comics or some other Marvel comics, but the comics that I would buy almost religiously were Sonic the Hedgehog. And there were there's two cartoons, two TV shows, two Sonic the Hedgehog TV shows that were on at about the same time. And the higher quality one, the higher produced one, which wasn't necessarily the better one in my opinion, but the higher produced one, the voice of Sonic was Jaleel White. And as a lot of us know, Jaleel White was Urkel. And Family Matters was on TV at the same time that both Sonic the Hedgehog cartoons were on. So I was heavily invested in Sonic the Hedgehog. I love the cartoons. The higher produced Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon came on Saturday morning. I want to say it was on CBS. But don't quote me on that. Although I liked the after school cartoon it was on a different channel. Better. It was not drawn as well, but it was just a lot more fun of a show. But the thing they had in common, that both of the animated cartoons had in common with the video game, was that more or less Sonic looked the same across every medium. So the way he looked more or less on the video game is how he looked in the comic books, Tales 2. It was how he looked on both of the TV shows as well. So it boggles my mind. We will talk about the Ninja Turtles in a moment, but it boggles my mind that with this highly established franchise that's been around for darn near 25 years or so, I don't know the exact number on it, but about 25 years at least, that Hollywood could get a hold of it and say, okay, here's what Sonic has looked like for 25 years. Let's F him up as horribly as possible. Even the new Pikachu movie from Pokemon, even the new Pikachu movie, that messes it up by giving Ryan Reynolds' voice to Pikachu. Is that who you picture in your brain when you think of Pika, Pika, Pika? And then it's Ryan Reynolds' voice. Stupid. How does Hollywood keep messing this up? But back to Sonic. In the Sonic movie, it's a live-action CGI film, and they have made the most nightmare fuel version of Sonic. They tried to make him look lifelike. For one, this is not even counting the fact that they gave him fur instead of spikes. Yes, hedgehogs do have fur underneath their spines, but it was an effort to make quote-unquote Sonic look more realistic. It's a talking hedgehog that runs 150 miles an hour, however fast Sonic runs. Faster than that. He can break the sound barrier, actually. So realism, how about we not go for realism here? Because trying to make Sonic the Hedgehog or any cartoon character or video game character look as real as possible is just horrifying. The Ninja Turtles, when Michael Bay, at least his studio, did the most recent Ninja Turtles films, they also gave the Ninja Turtles the nightmare fuel treatment. They try to give, here's what it is. It's all in the eyes. So for Sonic the Hedgehog, if you remember Sonic the Hedgehog, effectively how he was drawn, he had two eyes, but the way it was drawn, the two eyes connected together. There was kind of a bridge that went down towards his little black bean nose and then back up again in the two big giant, it kind of looked like McDonald's arches, I guess, of white. And in that white, you had his two beady eyes. It was very cartoonish. It looked really cool. It fit the character very well. So in the movie, they're giving Sonic two very human-looking eyes, and they're green. He actually has pigment in his eye color. They're green or blue or something. They're a human pigment of color. So they're trying to make Sonic the Hedgehog look too, quote-unquote, realistic. They're trying to make him look too human in this. And that looks horrifying. And I've seen some artist renders online already. I mean, as of recording this, I don't think the trailer's been released for even 48 hours, maybe less than 24 hours, depending whenever you start listening to this episode of Midweek Geek. It hasn't been out for very long, but the internet is already just awash with more Sonic memes. The internet did not need more Sonic memes. Lord knows there was enough Sonic memes already. But the artists are already rendering beautifully what they think Sonic should have looked like in this movie. And amazing. It looks really good, and it doesn't take anything away from the texture of Sonic's fur and spikes and anything like that. It just effectively, it just changes the eyes and makes Sonic look a little bit slightly more cartoony, which is what Hollywood should have done in the first place. Jim Carrey is playing the part of Eggman, or Dr. Robotnik, however you want to call him. And the reason why Eggman was called Eggman is because he was big and fat and shaped like an egg. Do you think Jim Carrey's wearing a fat suit in the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie? Nope. But that's kind of beside the point anyways. I am not really thrilled that it's Jim Carrey. From the same time period that I was so heavily obsessed with Sonic the Hedgehog, I was equally as obsessed with Jim Carrey. 1994, Dumb and Dumber, and The Cable Guy, and Ace Ventura, and all that. I loved Jim Carrey. And I'll bite my tongue as far as what's going on with him in recent years, because I don't even want to be mean about it, because I think it would just be mean. I'll just say, I'll just leave it at that. I don't hate Jim Carrey at all. Jim Carrey in 2019 is not Jim Carrey 1994, and that's fine. I'm just saying, I hope Jim Carrey is at least funny in this movie, whether or not I even see the new Sonic the Hedgehog movie. I don't know if I will. I honestly don't know. From the previews that I have seen, the trailers that I do see, it doesn't even look that good anyways. Is this a big enough franchise to cash in on? Here's the other juxtaposition here. I don't know what audience they are going for with this movie. If they're trying to introduce Sonic the Hedgehog to a brand new crop of kids, 7 and 8-year-olds who had no idea what Sonic the Hedgehog was beforehand, this new Sonic the Hedgehog is still nightmare fuel. He looks horrifying. If they're trying to market the Sonic the Hedgehog movie to people in their 30s like me or late 20s that grew up with Sonic the Hedgehog, again, horrifying. This is not the Sonic the Hedgehog that we grew up with. He looks horrible. It looks terrible. And I think I'll wrap it up with this kind of final thought. What year was it? 1990? Was it 4? Was it 4 or 5 or 3? That the Super Mario Brothers came out. The Super Mario Brothers movie came out. That's exactly the first thing I thought of when this new Sonic the Hedgehog trailer. They were going to put Sonic the Hedgehog in the real world interacting with human beings. And kind of like what they did with the Super Mario Brothers movie, which was an abomination, which is probably what Sonic the Hedgehog is going to be. It looks like an abomination. Hollywood couldn't think back 25 years and see the Super Mario Brothers movie and say, that was a train wreck. Maybe we shouldn't do things like that. Oh, let's give Sonic human eyes. That's not going to look freaky. Let's make his body proportions just horrible. Let's not at all make it cartoony looking. The Super Mario Brothers movie, I believe, if I remember right, it was Mario and Luigi were real human beings, real plumbers, and then they just had dinosaurs and vague elements of the video game in the movie. It was really stupid. It was really horrible. Hollywood either does good video game movies or terrible video game movies. Silent Hill. What's another good, decent video game movie? The first thing that popped into my mind was Street Fighter 2. No, Street Fighter was not a good adaptation of a video game to a movie. Mortal Kombat was actually all right. Mortal Kombat was one of my favorite movies. It wasn't one of my favorite video games growing up. Street Fighter was always my favorite fighting game, but I played plenty of Mortal Kombat, don't get me wrong, but Mortal Kombat the movie, I wore that tape out. It was such a cool movie. I had the soundtracks and everything, Rammstein, Do Us Me, all that stuff. So Hollywood can do good adaptations of video games into movies, but when it seems like, I guess what it comes down to is when it's kind of a more kid-focused video game. You know, Silent Hill's not a kid-focused video game. Mortal Kombat really isn't supposed to be a kid-focused video game. But Super Mario Brothers is supposed to be kid-focused. Sonic the Hedgehog was supposed to be more kid-focused. I guess when it comes down to adapting kids' video games to movies, Hollywood just has no idea. Is there a good... I can't think of off the top of my head. Is there a good kids' video game that's been adapted to a decent movie? I can't think of one off the top of my head. And you might be thinking of something, that you can think of right now, but the mere fact that I can't think of one off the top of my head, that everybody can't think of one off the top of their head, kind of proves my point here that Hollywood leaves us scratching our heads. Fix Sonic. Go back and just re-render that whole movie, but fix Sonic. Leave him in the same places, in the same... Don't change it shot for shot. Don't call the whole cast back and say, let's redo this thing. Just go back, CAD design or whatever, Sonic, make him look more like he looks in the video games and in the cartoons, and nobody would be saying anything about this. But I guess that came out of my mouth, that's maybe what they want. Maybe the studio knows, hey, if we make it look like the video game, it's going to go kind of under the radar. But if we F this up royally, at least everyone's going to be talking about it, and maybe we'll get more ticket sales just for people wanting to show up to the train wreck. Maybe the looky-loos looking at the horrific car accident going by. Maybe we'll get that crowd. I guess that's what they're going for. Anyways, thanks you for listening to me ramble on for 15 minutes or whatever I'm doing here. Be sure to subscribe to Geek Therapy Radio if you haven't already in your favorite podcast player, make sure you subscribe to the Geek Therapy YouTube channel. I've just broke 900 subscribers there. It's not that much, but my goal is 1,000. It's all about setting goals. So my next goal is 1,000, and I'm nearly there. So make sure you help me out subscribing to Geek Therapy Radio on YouTube. The 1,000th subscriber, I have my subscriber count hidden from the public, but the 1,000th subscriber is going to get $100 out of my own pocket. Maybe I shouldn't do that, but I'm going to do that. They also get a piece of the DeLorean. I'm going to take a piece off of my DeLorean, original piece, and mail it to them or her, whoever they are. So subscribe to Geek Therapy Radio on YouTube and subscribe to the podcast, and we're all good. Listen to Geek Therapy Radio 10 p.m. Saturday nights right here in KPRC 950. And other than that, be good. I hope you guys are doing well, you guys and gals. When I say guys, I just mean everybody. Hope you're doing well. Hope life is going okay for you. Hope you're not too stressed out. Just remember that stress is temporary. Bad times are temporary. Just keep focused on making the best choices you can in life. A lot of people, I feel, complain about their lot in life, and it's like, well, you consistently make horrible choices, consistently terrible choices. So if you're someone like that, prone to it, just maybe take a step back, because it's not everybody. Some people's lives are just crappy because that's the cards they're dealt, and it sucks. But for the people who have otherwise, who know how to get their crap together, but they constantly make bad choices, I implore you, we all do that sometimes. I'm not out of that loop. Just to take a step back maybe and remind yourself that you are worthy of much better things. You are worthy of a much better life, and you are worthy and valuable to make a much better decision. I know that sounds like sacrilege, blasphemy in this day and age, but you do have value and you are worth it. So let's try to make the best decisions, up to and including treating yourself right, treating others right. But I argue, more importantly, treating yourself right, because it's harder to be good to others if you're not good to yourself. You're no good to anybody unless you're good to yourself, if that kind of makes sense. But I've rambled on too much. You get what I'm saying. I just wanted to connect with everybody again on the download, on the reel. So until next time, take care, and I'll see you in the next episode of Geek Therapy Radio.